In this travel documentary on life in Vietnam, you'll discover a country with super cheap cost of living, beautiful women and beaches, and be surprised by the best food in Asia and maybe the world. Vietnam is an amazing land with thousands of unique exotic dishes and places exploding with unforgettable flavor. Vietnam is the most livable country in the world, a place where beautiful women are everywhere you look, along with stunning beaches recognized by UNESCO as natural World Heritage Sites. Vietnam is famous for growing, roasting, and serving the best coffee in the world. It's the #2 coffee exporter on earth. Coffee is available everywhere you look, on the traditional sidewalk cafes, next to delicious food and lively nightlife. You can live in Vietnam for a shockingly affordable cost of living. For what it costs to live in the United States, along with all these amazing facts, the average person here only spends 28% to live compared to the US. In this travel documentary, I'll share with you all of my secrets after 5 years of life in Vietnam, a country shaped like a soft silk ribbon gracefully curving south to the equator. Like the letter S on the world map, Vietnam is located on the east side of the Indo-Chinese peninsula, bordering China to the north, Laos and Cambodia to the west, and the east, the sea, and onto the Pacific Ocean. Known as the gateway from the Indian Ocean to the Pacific, its location places Vietnam in the perfect spot for international trade, with land connections all across Asia via the Mekong River. Vietnam is lucky enough to have an incredible coastline, stretching over 3,200 kilometers and outlining some of the most beautiful natural wonders anywhere in the world. From the stunning vistas of Ha Long Bay, where thousands of dragon-shaped islands spot the emerald waters, to beaches like Mai Kea and Da Nang, widely recognized and awarded as the most beautiful beaches in the world. Vietnam is a bucket list destination for anyone wanting to experience the exotic and beautiful. For beach lovers and mountain climbers, Vietnam is a country of sharp contrasts. Way up in the rugged north, this land expands up to 600 kilometers wide. But at its narrowest, Hip in Quang Binh province, it's tiny, only 50 kilometers across. Within this dense strip of land, you'll find the impressive natural landscapes of Sun Dung Cave, the largest cave in the world. Discovered by a farmer, it's a massive secret hidden forest beneath his field. The climate in Vietnam is equally unique, covering many latitudes from north to south. This country contains special and surprising features. The north can be like Europe and China, having 4 seasons, spring, summer, autumn, and winter, which reveal an unmatched hallmark-like beauty, while the south has only 2 seasons, hot and dry and hot and wet. It's one of the most humid places on earth, so be prepared to sweat in southern Vietnam. Surprising to tourists and foreigners alike, during winter months, the north can be snow-covered in white cold, while the south enjoys the eternal spring. During Tet holiday and Lunar New Year, when the weather is best, warm and sunny days and crisp, cool evenings. On top of the geographic wonders of Vietnam, this is a nation that's truly proud of its indigenous heritage and over 60 ethnic communities who speak over 100 languages. Each group offers a unique tapestry of food, beauty, culture, and tradition. Local dances, songs, and festivals take place in each region throughout the year, adding color to each remote corner of Vietnam. The diversity of Vietnam will leave you in awe. In the Hong community, you'll be shocked to hear of the tradition for selecting and marrying a wife. It might even make you afraid to visit and accidentally become a Hong wife. The practice even prompted local authorities to encourage the people to abandon this tradition. If you want to know more, leave a comment below or join my Patreon. We'll answer any of your questions and you can ask me anything. Vietnam is now the 15th biggest country on earth, a dense, populous place with over 100 million Vietnamese. It's still growing, a young nation by demographics with huge economic potential and an ancient history. For over 4,000 years, the Vietnamese have built and protected their country with plenty of patriotism and pride. Each city and village is known for its special cuisine, from street food that excites your taste buds to surprising innovations in technology. But the hardest part for foreigners visiting Vietnam is understanding the Vietnamese language, known as one of the most challenging languages on earth because of its tonal discrepancies and changes. Its system of 6 tones change pitch and emphasis, and by a single note, you can change the entire meaning of a word, giving a sentence a whole different emphasis. Pronouns are also a maze to navigate in Vietnam. In English, we just have we, he, she, I, and you, maybe they. In Vietnam, there are dozens of pronouns. The pronouns here change based on the relationship between speakers. Each form of address reflects respect and etiquette. So there are layers of social significance and potentially infinite ways to mess up and be confused. If you're a new learner when you're in Vietnam, it's probably better to just ask for help. Vietnamese coffee is not just a drink here. It's a way of life, a lifestyle, and a whole economy for thousands of people in Vietnam. Coffee is an essential part of life. The simple bean connects families and provinces. The Vietnamese cafe culture offers a unique experience for every visitor. Hard to find in any other country, it was influenced by the French colonial era. Sitting on the sidewalks in traffic, meeting locals, and sipping a strong cafe fin is not to be missed. The coffee culture in Vietnam has hundreds of varieties of preparations, from coconut to yogurt or salt cream. In the north, you can try bitter coffee with rich egg yolk custard, like a coffee crème anglaise, while the south is famous for its café suada with sweetened condensed milk over ice. Perfect for testing your tolerance for sugar and caffeine in heavy doses. Foreigners from all over the world are blown away by the choice and variety of Vietnamese coffee and the incredible welcoming culture they're so proud of. You'll discover Vietnam is truly a coffee lover's paradise, a place where you can get one of the best cups of joe in the world for under $1. If you've never been to Vietnam, you'll be drawn into a vibrant and colorful world of grilled meats, seafood, and delicious vegetables cooked over open fires on the sidewalk. Vietnam is a place where anything can happen on a street corner. From the lively, chaotic streets of Hanoi's Old Quarter, immersed in thousands of years of scenery and history, you can take a seat on a tiny red plastic stool and join the party in the street, where vendors are lined up selling noodles and meat. Vietnam will make you feel as if you've stepped into the most diverse and affordable street food market in the world. From fragrant pho bone beef broth with its thin rice noodles and savory taste, recognized by foodies and Michelin Guide around the world, and often chosen as the best soup in the world by international culinary magazines, to the grilled broken rice com tam of Saigon, served with pork chops and fried eggs. You should also try some steamed rice rolls in central Vietnam if you stop in Hue. And you can try all of these delicious dishes without breaking the bank, because many of the street food meals are available here for under $1 US. And for $2 or $3, you can have a whole family-sized platter. Eating in Vietnam will not break your bankroll because of the incredibly cheap local food and affordable cost of living here. If you just step out of your comfort zone, sit down at any sidewalk food hawker with a crowd, and order what the guy next is having. But when it comes to my personal favorite street food here, you should definitely not miss out on the Vietnamese banh mi, a local take on the classic Subway sandwich of America. The hero of Asian street food, a hot, crispy rice flour baguette filled with meat, mayo, pate, and fresh vegetables. This sandwich will hook you from the very first bite. If you haven't tried banh mi in Vietnam, you haven't truly experienced the best flavors of East meeting West in the world. People from all over make sandwiches, but the Vietnamese have perfected the art of sandwich making, and they only cost 50 cents to $1. Vietnam is truly a treasure trove of new and exotic surprises for foreigners visiting for the first time. Anything can happen to you here. You might see a food vendor wrapping rice rolls while an elderly lady is singing karaoke, and a nearby sidewalk is overrun with motorbikes. People sip coffee, smoke cigarettes, and hoof on their water bongs out in the open. So when you travel to Hanoi, you'll be amazed by the curiosities you can find down each little side street. Snacks, repairmen, argument, and meals. Life in Vietnam is happening out in the open, right there on the sidewalk, making it a unique and special place that's both timeless and ever in the present. When you're in Vietnam, there's always so much to see. Your biggest culture shock after you get over the super low cost of living for foreigners is going to be the natural and stunning beauty of the local Vietnamese women. Busy making a living in society, caring for their families, working in all parts of the economy, and running many businesses, both out of their homes and on the sidewalks and streets. Vietnamese women often control the finances here, organizing community activities with grace and charm. And captivating eyes and strong presence always create a special welcome. not only because Vietnam ranks high on the list of countries with the most beautiful women, according to Clickbait News, and if you don't believe me, just ask the Miss Universe pageant, because Miss Vietnam was the runner-up at the Miss Universe contest in 2023. But aside from their alluring natural beauty and traditional style, Vietnamese women are famous for their resilience as soldiers and outstanding talents in the business world as CEOs and managers. You'll meet determined young women sipping iced coffee outside of the offices in Saigon, and many single moms who are raising children and running businesses. It's also common in Vietnam for family matriarchs to keep tabs and financial accounts in the cafes and restaurants of families. You'll notice women holding the cash while they chat, but also running the show with a stern hand. Because women are often the bosses and managers here in Vietnam, you won't find any women more versatile than the Vietnamese. Women in Vietnam can and do everything at home and work, not just as wives and mothers caring for their families, but also as outstanding women in every field. The image of young Vietnamese women rising to become successful entrepreneurs, scientists, doctors, and famous artists and famous business leaders is no longer strange here, as women in Vietnam contribute to the rising GDP of one of the new Asian tigers. Vietnamese women are one of the reasons Vietnam has the most rapidly developing economy in the world. Vietnam is the newest powerhouse in the ASEAN region, so when you stroll along Hon Kiem Lake in Hanoi and see Vietnamese girls in modern Western suits or traditional elegant Ao Dai dresses, or the beauty queens of Saigon snapping social media pics for Mid-Autumn or the Lunar New Year Tet Festival, remember, Vietnamese women and girls are very friendly with foreigners. And there's a growing trend of Vietnamese to marry foreigners, like my wife and I. Of the nearly 20,000 Vietnamese marriages with foreigners each year, 90% or almost all are local women with expat guys. So if you want to connect and make friends with Vietnamese women through social media or dating apps and want my advice, join my Patreon, where I have uncensored Ask Me Anything chats, and literally, you can ask me anything. Expat life in Vietnam, whether you're retired coming here for the winters type or a digital nomad just stopping through on a 90-day visa. There are roughly 100,000 foreigners living in Vietnam. Most are from South Korea and Japan, here for manufacturing industry and working in major cities like Ho Chi Minh, Da Nang, and Hanoi. The expats here are professionals, skilled laborers, investors, and entrepreneurs. They work with international companies at massive modern factories and hubs around Ho Chi Minh City, doing import and export in the tens of millions of dollars. Recently, there's also been a big influx in the Russian community in some of the beach cities, and there are still plenty of Germans and French as well in Old Hanoi. But there's also teachers and retirees from the US, Canada, and Australia. Or all of the above if you're like me. Leave a comment and let me know your own home country, or get in touch in the comments through Patreon. Every year, Vietnam also welcomes about 20 million tourists, and many of them stay for the full 90-day visa. If you're still wondering why, it's because of the super low cost of living in Vietnam, where rent is only a few $100s per person, meals can be found for a couple dollars, and Grab and motorbike taxis are literally pennies a day. It's very realistic to live on a $500 to $1,000 a month budget in Vietnam today in 2025. Vietnam is a country where your dollar still goes a long way. So if you're considering moving here or spending an extended amount of time here, the cost of living is a huge incentive. A one-bedroom apartment in central areas of cities like Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh typically sets you back $250 to $500 a month, depending on the location and the amenities. All your bills for electricity, water, and internet are also super affordable. Total costs can be from $50 to $100 a month. That's why Vietnam attracts so many budget-conscious travelers. A local meal at a street vendor can cost as little as a quarter, and it's pretty solid to eat on $1 if you're doing it cheap and local. Expect to pay $3 to $4 for mid-range Vietnamese restaurants, and Western or international food about $8 to $10 per meal. Groceries are also affordable here, and especially if you shop at markets, you can expect to spend $25 to $50 a week, or maybe about $100 if you use international grocers. Depends on your taste and how many imported goods you buy. Transportation is another area where your money goes a long way. Yes, that was my bad dad joke and pun for the day. Public transport is almost non-existent, but taxis or ride-hailing apps like Grab are cheap, often costing only $3 to $5 for short distances, or even less within the city, and you can rent a motorbike for $2 to $4 a day. A gym membership typically costs between $2 and $40, and the dentist will only be $5 to $50 for an appointment. All of your healthcare and medical costs are going to be way less than they would be at home in North America. My wife literally paid $40 for a double root canal, and I've made videos for members only about dental costs, prescription costs, etc. So you can join up the channel if you want that as well. Overall cost of living in Vietnam for one person, including housing, food, transport, and utilities, average about $550 to $800 per month, making it one of the most affordable travel destinations for expats and foreigners anywhere in Southeast Asia or the world. Especially compared to living in major American or European cities, it's often less than a quarter of the cost. As hard as it may be to believe, whether you're retiring or just discovering Southeast Asia for the first time, Vietnam offers a fantastic quality of life at a fraction of the cost. If you want to learn more, just reach out to me again in the comments. But Vietnam offers so much more than just a super low cost of living for foreigners. From memorable travel experiences like rock climbing or cycling through the Ha Giang Loop, to doing an extreme food tour in Hanoi, bucket list travel experiences await you at every corner in Vietnam. Go cruising in the luxurious and gorgeous Ha Long Bay ships from Hanoi, where the 1,000-year-old capital is tree-lined with ancient temples and beautiful lakes, and the downtown is just 90 minutes away from the cruise ships' ports. It's one of Vietnam's most famous symbols. Ha Long Bay is recognized by the UNESCO as a Natural World Heritage Site with over 1,600 stunning limestones. It's said to resemble dragons rising from pristine emerald waters. A truly stunning landscape that leaves you in awe. And you can afford luxury on a budget. A lot of the cruise ships here are literally only a couple $100 a night for 5- and 6-star luxury. But to really immerse yourself in a breathtaking landscape, rent a motorbike or tour guide in Hanoi and set out north for the road trip of a lifetime on the Ha Giang Loop. It's the best kept secret in northern Vietnam and Southeast Asia. You'll see the epic scale and ancient mystery in winding switchbacks equal in beauty to the high mountain passes of Tibet or Nepal. But the word is out now, so make sure you reserve your tour guide at least a few months in advance, because it gets booked up. Our next stop is in the south, my old hometown, Saigon. Bustling, dynamic, and modern, but a wee bit crazy and Wild West style. There's national historical sites like Independence Palace and the War Relic Museum from the Vietnam-American War. But just sitting on a motorbike and riding around town is an adventure in Ho Chi Minh City. But don't miss out on the amazing street food markets. You can check out tons of my videos I've done doing eating tours there. It is phenomenal and incredibly cheap food. You'll taste the delicious richness of Vietnamese cuisine, and if you crave escape, you can try a cruise down the Mekong River, paddled over calm waters surrounded by green jungle. You'll feel like you've slipped into an untouched paradise, but you can't miss the beautiful beaches in Vietnam. If you love clear skies, clean water, sunny days, and white sands, I mean, come on, look around me. Da Nang City, Vietnam has to be the best and most affordable beach cities anywhere in the world. Dozens of coastal destinations along the 1,200 kilometers of oceanfront property in Vietnam. From Nha Trang to Quy Nhon, Phu Quoc to Da Nang, Vietnam is blessed with blue sea and soft sand. A short flight from any major city or right in Da Nang, you can surf, swim, and soak up the sun. Whether you prefer hostel-style palapa huts for a few bucks or 6-star beachside luxury for hundreds of dollars a night, Vietnam can truly deliver an unforgettable once-in-a-lifetime trip. But be careful, Vietnam will make you fall in love, and once you get here, you won't want to leave. But what's it actually like to experience living in the Vietnamese culture? It's a lively and often very loud country. There's festivals year-round, but the big ones are mid-autumn at harvest time and Tet, like a Christmas, homecoming, and New Year celebration rolled into one for Lunar New Year's. It's by far the biggest holiday for the Vietnamese people from around the country, and the whole diaspora from all over the world return home reunite with family, pay respects, and enjoy massive meals together. They clean and decorate their houses, then dress them up with yellow flowers and kumquats. They make and eat bang tet, a famous sticky rice cake, and the entire country takes a break. I wouldn't recommend traveling around Vietnam Mid-Autumn Festival or Tet because the domestic airports and bus stations can be absolutely crazy, and then a lot of the businesses close down, so it gets really quiet. There's even an extra charge at a lot of the cafes and restaurants called a Tet charge, because they have to pay for additional labor at holiday hours. But when you do travel and experience Vietnam, you should feel relaxed and safe knowing this is one of the cleanest and safest countries in all of Asia. Vietnam is one of the safest countries in the world for men and women solo travelers. With a low crime rate, the only concern is traffic fatalities. In fact, the Global Peace Index consistently ranks Vietnam among the top peaceful countries, not only in the Southeast Asian region, but also in the world. So you can walk safely at night through the bustling streets of Hanoi or Saigon. Just try and avoid petty thefts or scams. And if you have any questions about safety, just leave them below in the comments. Though there isn't a lot of English spoken here relative to some of the neighboring countries like Thailand or Singapore, the literacy rate among adults exceeds 95%, a mind-blowing achievement compared to the global average and regional stats. Since Vietnam opened up its economy to foreign investment in the 90s, it has rapidly developed and is fast building new infrastructure. Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City have both recently opened their first metro lines. There are modern hospitals, clinics, and pharmacies which will accept most claims. And the population, despite being very young, is very well educated. Vietnam has a low-cost yet highly effective healthcare, and more international patients have recently begun to come to Vietnam for dental care, aesthetics, and cosmetic or plastic surgeries. That's because Vietnam ranks among the best in the region, and the average medical cost will shock Americans for being so affordable. Compared to healthcare back home, where it poses a significant burden or risk, rehab and outpatient services here are a fraction of the costs back home. Hearing about the super low cost of living, the beautiful beaches, and the stunning women of Vietnam, I'm sure you're ready to hop on the next plane and get here. So let's talk a little bit about visas, which you need before you can enter the country. Or maybe you're dreaming of retiring in Vietnam to escape your cold winters back home. But whatever you do, don't forget to prepare the documents and get the proper visa application first. For Americans considering a visit to Vietnam, the process is straightforward, but you do need to know your options. You can apply for a single entry e-visa, which is valid for up to 30 days. This e-visa costs about $25 and can be applied for entirely online, which I will link below. But if you plan to stay longer or make multiple trips, a tourist visa extension is needed, or a multiple entry visa might be necessary. This can cost around $50 to $100 depending on the duration of your longer stay and whether you want to go through the business or retirement options. U.S. citizens will need to apply for a business visa or a long-term residence permit, and you may be required to show proof of employment or sufficient funds. And this process also takes a few weeks or even months, so make sure to do it ahead of time. It's always best to check with the local Vietnamese consulate if there's any travel updates or visa changes, because they do happen frequently. Or you can take the route I did, come here for work, fall in love with one of the beautiful local Vietnamese women, end up staying forever, and then get stuck on this gorgeous beach in Da Nang. I'm Evan, eh? Click here to watch more of my weird, wonderful, and what the F travels all over Asia. Or join here, become a patron, ask me anything you want over there on Patreon, where I add more exclusive and uncensored content that doesn't get pulled down from YouTube or demonetized.